I'd like to hide from you. Let me share screen.
All right. Well, good evening and welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name's Kelly Holmes, and I'm one of your fellow board members for VANOMA. And I'd just like to start by thanking you all for attending our monthly Spotlight series this evening. Tonight, we're going to be showcasing the major highlights from this year's Project Pipeline Architecture Summer Camp. And if you're unfamiliar with Project Pipeline, it's best described as the premier K-12 outreach program put forth by the National Organization of Minority Architects. Chapters from around the country host a week-long summer camp for 6th through 12th graders in order to get them engaged and excited about a future in architecture. VANOMA hosted its camp virtually last month on July 18th through 22nd, with the help from professionals from across the Commonwealth who served as mentors and volunteers to help bring the camp to life. Tonight, our presenter, Crystal Miller, will be sharing the highlights and feedback that we received about the camp. She is the department chair and an assistant professor at Brightpoint Community College in Richmond, Virginia. Crystal is a registered architect, a recent addition to the VANOMA board, and a driving force behind the planning and implementation of this year's camp. She graduated from the University of Virginia in 2001 with a degree in architecture and received her master's in architecture in 2012 from the New School of Architecture in San Diego, California. Crystal has been an architectural and engineering educator for over a decade, and correct me if I'm wrong, Crystal, over a decade, and her experience
Closer to 2.
and her experience and expertise in this arena has been an invaluable resource for this year's Project Pipeline Summer Camp. So without any further ado, I'll go ahead and hand things over to Crystal.
Wonderful. Thank you for that introduction. Now I don't have to talk about myself, so that is that is good. Welcome everybody. As Kelly mentioned, I had the honor of being able to coordinate the camp this summer, and it was an absolutely amazing experience. I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see some of my. So I just want to point out a few of the highlights from the camp with you guys. If you guys have not been involved before or not seen the project pipeline that we did, or spotlight that we did beforehand, I'm going to go over the actual project for the camp and then kind of recap that, and then talk a little bit about the student experience and the experience as being one of the volunteers in the camp, and then what we're looking forward to for next year as we continue to do this camp. So my role as the camp coordinator, we had a lot of, this was my first experience with Project Pipeline and my first experience coordinating a camp like this, and everything about it was exciting. I was really excited to do it. I am running the architecture department at Brightpoint, which was John Tyler Community College, and I strongly believe in the community college mission and the mission of Project Pipeline and this outreach program, and I think they run very similarly together with the goals and the intent of engaging students at an early age and helping them to focus and launch their careers in architecture and engineering. And so one of my goals, one of the reasons that I joined with Virginia NOMA is so that we could also do a camp. I wanted to do a camp like this for Brightpoint, for my students, and be able to have a pipeline for students to know that they can do a community college route for 2 years and then segue as a junior to a 4-year college to complete their education, which is a fairly new opportunity, especially for architecture. but I think that it helps level the playing field as far as equity and fiscal responsibility is concerned. So I highly believe in that mission. So the camp this year was super successful, in large part due to our volunteers. I was overwhelmed at the amount of volunteers that we got, and repeat volunteers from previous years, and I have some videos to show you guys at the end about that, or from some of our volunteers. But we decided early on to minimize the amount of pressure we were putting on the volunteers, ideally, and splitting it up into smaller segments. So we had morning sessions and afternoon sessions. And so we had 8 different presenters for the week. And the week before camp, that was making me very nervous because it was a lot to coordinate everybody and get everybody in the same meeting. And we were, I wasn't really sure how it was going to go there at the last minute. But everybody came together, and with really minimal direction from the board and I, we put this kind of template outline together for them, and they just ran with it. I mean, the every presentation, I feel like the whole week was better than the one before. So I can't say enough about how wonderful our volunteers were, particularly our presenters. And then we had mentors signed up. And I didn't realize when I signed up the mentors that the entire board almost was going to also be there. So I was worried, people get sick or their kids, or, you get a deadline at work and people weren't going to show up. But every session we had more mentors than we needed, which was just a phenomenal turnout, I think, from the volunteers. So I was very overwhelmingly impressed. So to recap the project, so this project was also a little bit controversial. I think the board and I went back and forth with it many times, because we did a master planning project this year, and typically it's just a small building, or one small site. And there was a lot of discussion about whether this was too big, if it was too much information, if it was too hard to complete in a week. And I think that the outcome of the camp showed us it definitely was not. The kids, they took all of it on, and they were super successful with it. And I think that it also gave them a perspective of architecture that they don't always know about, right? Like, you always think about architecture as being the specific building or the individual building. But I would venture to say the majority of our campers did not realize the master planning aspect of it, and looking at larger sites and multiple buildings, and what connects those buildings, and the streets, and the parking and the uses and green spaces that go in between there, and how that feels, and how to put a community together. So I think we were able to introduce to these campers something new that they didn't know about architecture. So our project was creating a power community. It was based on, this is a aerial view of St. Paul's Church. So this is an actual project that Clark Nixon is currently working on. And it is St. Paul's Baptist Church has, in Henrico County, had acquired 324 acres around their property, and they are working on creating a city of possibility. And so we actually had the pastor come in and talk to, as one of the guest speakers, and present his vision of the project and their goals for the project, which was really impactful. The project has different zones, and different building types that are going to be associated with it. They had 5 different districts in addition to the church. So we talked to the students about the different types of districts, different types of buildings, the different types of scales, in all those things, and the relationships between them and how to create relationships between them. So what we actually did in the camp, this was a quick outline of what the camp day looked or week looked like. So day one, we did an introduction. We told them all about NOMA and what Project Pipeline was and its intent and its background. In the afternoon, we talked to them about what a city was and how you get from a city to a town or a city to a block, to a street, to a building, and talk to them about the scale of what they would see in their neighborhood and the history of communities, particularly Black and minority communities. Day two, we talked about the master planning. That was when the pastor came in and shared the vision for the actual project. And then we had a speaker on creating a power community and what it means to not just design a building or a couple of buildings, but what it is to use those buildings and the spaces between them to bring people together. In the afternoon, they talked about creating a program. So we actually, using this template for the 5 districts, we got the campers to talk about a program, programmatically about what they wanted to include. And this was really interesting because, you ask architects or adults what they think should be in a community, and then you ask a group of kids what they think should be in a community. And I think we were all surprised that the answers were quite different, right? There were a lot of playgrounds and skate parks and outdoor spaces, which I found really personally interesting in a day and age where you always think of kids just being inside on their devices. These kids wanted an abundance of outdoor play space, which was really, really cool to get them thinking about those types of spaces and how they interact with the buildings and what they would do in those spaces and what those spaces would look like. So day 3, we talked to them about the transportation and connections. We had them do vision boards of what they thought their community would look like, and they started to model their program. And then day 4, because we hadn't given them enough information yet, we dumped on top of that building science and sustainability, and ideas about quality of life. So we literally gave them like 4 years of architecture school in 4 days. And then right, and then we in the afternoon they worked on their presentations and projects that we finished up day 4 with a presentation on how to give a presentation, right? How to do public speaking, right? Because it's one thing to graphically show your ideas, and it's another thing to be able to articulate that and share those ideas with the group. So it was a really well-rounded program. It was a lot to bite off, I think. But they did it. They did all of it, and they really enjoyed it. And I think they got a lot out of it. And our speakers, yeah, I was really nervous the week before. I was thinking, next year we should definitely just do 4 speakers, just do 1 a day, right? Because it's too much to coordinate. It's too much, it's going to be overwhelming. It's too much. But the feedback we got and the way that the week actually went, by the end of the week, I think it was advantageous to have so many different voices for the campers, and so many different perspectives, and everybody was an expert in the thing that they were talking about. So to have all of these different viewpoints from different ages and different demographics and different speakers with different experiences, I think was one of the things that benefited the campers the most. Day 5 was presentations. We ran presentations all day. We had 24 campers, I think, that showed up, and maybe about 20 that presented. So it took most of the day. And I think that was really enjoyable for the volunteers. So I think the monotony of, you know, I think it was just as much fun for those that volunteered as it was for the campers, because, we're doing, our regular routine every day. And it's so nice to see, um, it's just energizing to have see young people be engaged and be able to talk about architecture in a conceptual way. That you don't really get to do every day when you're just on the grind at work. So I think it was really refreshing, and I learned a lot from it personally. Just listening to these kids present their projects and all of their different ideas that they came up with. I think that's one of the greatest things, right? You give everybody the same problem and you get 30 different answers. You have 30 different people, you have 30 different answers. So this is what a day at camp looked like. This is just a screenshot of all of us, the mentors and the campers on from one of the days. We got some pretty positive feedback. We did a evaluation at the end of the camp week. And you can see most of our numbers here are in the 4s and 5s. So we got some really good reactions to the questions that we asked about the camp. And these are just a couple of the slides that I pulled from the various presentations from the week. These are 6 different shots from 6 different presenters throughout the week. Starting with the master planning and creating a program and showing them giving them examples of how to organize their programs. They start to create it. We went through some sustainable issues and shared use. And all of the miscellaneous extra things that can go in the spaces in between, and giving them ideas and tips for doing their actual presentation that last day. Just again, all of our volunteers just put together really solid, really professional, just top-notch presenters. This is an example of what we wanted their final presentations to look like. This was part of our presentation talk at the end of Thursday. And then I have to talk a little bit about the Miro board. So we thought we were going to have them actually build models of all of this, and then that didn't work out. And so at the last minute, we changed it to a virtual project where they were going to build these site plans in a virtual platform, which I think we were all very nervous about. And then I think it was Ian, somebody showed us this Miro board, and it was so chaotic, and it was so I was very unsure about how this was going to work. But this is the best thing ever. And I think I'm going to start using it in my classes where I teach for this semester. And I can't believe I didn't know about this platform. It's basically a giant whiteboard. And our team set it up. Our wonderful board members set this up where the site plan is just copied here. For each student, and then there's a day of the week, so they can put so this student puts their Monday work here, their Tuesday work here, their Wednesday work here, and so forth and so forth. And so everybody gets a column to place their work. So this was the beginning, when the first day when they were starting to set up, and you can see all these little tags are different people working on the Miro board all at the same time. So this is a screenshot from my computer, watching all of the campers start to work in the Miro board. It was fascinating. So some of our final product, this is a few of the campers. This is their final site plan. These are their vision board images. And it's cut off down here. There's more days of work down here underneath, but these are just a few of the examples that we got Thursday and Friday later in the week that we were working with. we had a lot of amazing vision boards. When we asked them what would they want their city of possibility to look like, we had them go gather pictures and copy paste them to the mural board for one of the assignments. And we just got some really fascinating ideas. So these are a couple of the site plans, final site plans from the presentations from the last day. We gave them little building model pieces that they could copy around. And some of the students used Post-it notes instead of copying the buildings around. So there's the existing church and parking in the center, and then all of this space around was what they were designing. Here's a couple more. And a couple others. This one, I think is special to bring up because this camper had difficulty using the mural board, using the tech, and so they circumvented it and used something they knew that they were familiar with, and then copy pasted it to the mural board, which we encouraged them to do. You know, anybody that was having tech issues or anything else. And at first look, I know I thought that they just didn't, you know, all this green space, they didn't get a chance to finish the project. But this was one of the best presentations I think that we had that week. This particular camper had some very firsthand personal experience with disabilities, and she decided to just throw out the entire program. So everything on this is very purposeful. And once she explained it, it was, you know, she threw out the church. She said, you know, why would you create a community around a church? And so she just changed the church. She was like, we're going to make it a community center instead. And you don't need all this parking. You're going to put green space around it. And she approached it from very much a vantage point of persons with disabilities and how they would be able to access stuff, and how sensory the space around them would be, and how that would affect them. It was a very powerful presentation that she gave, and everything that she did was very, very purposeful. And so even though it looked a lot different than everybody else's, it was very well planned and thought out, which is all we could ask for. This is another one. Naya is actually one of our campers that I'm gonna show a video for at the end of the presentation. All of the campers just really came up with some really cool ideas. Ziza and Naya, I think, are both 12th graders. And they just really went above and beyond with the design and the thought process, laying these out. Ziza also did a video for us. And then Chris, his was, you can see he didn't quite finish over here, but he was so very detailed. It's because he was so very detailed in laying out every street and tree and parking space. He really got into the details and the connectivity of the space. And I'm wondering if he didn't finish it afterwards. I bet he did. I'd like to look at the mural board now. I don't know if you guys have looked at the mural board now to see if he finished it. We should get an update. But yeah, so this is the students did amazing work. We gave them a lot to think about. We gave them a lot of information. And they really just took it and ran with it to, I think, pass all of our expectations. So I wanted to share a few of the videos that we got with you guys. I'm going to stop my share for a second and reshare the video. Kelly, am I okay on time?
Yes, you're doing great. 7:30.
Okay, perfect. All right, so the first video I'm going to queue up is one from one of our volunteers. She was a mentor. Let's see.
Hi, everyone. My name is Elisa Church-Terpak. I'm a design coordinator at HGA.
Can you guys hear that? Yes, okay.
And this is my second time volunteering with Project Pipeline. In general, I think really resonated with the mission of Project Pipeline. And personally, I don't necessarily see many Asian American women. And so I know that my sort of statistics within architecture are at least higher than maybe other minorities. So if I'm feeling this way, then I can't imagine how someone growing up and wanting to be an architect and not really knowing anybody like I did, how they would get into the field. So that's sort of my reasoning, I guess, to be a volunteer. Being the second year that I volunteered, I think it's really helpful to see and also to show the students that there's such a wide range of kind of avenues that you can go within architecture. I think last year it was a bit of a smaller scale project, whereas this one it was a much larger scale. And it really, even for me, I think it showcased really that you don't have to be great at everything, and you don't have to necessarily be interested in everything, but as long as you find something that you really are passionate about and that you can see yourself doing and loving, I think that's sort of what we want to show students. I hope that that's what we did.
Some of the things that really resonated with me during the camp, collaboration is obviously one of the things I love in process. And so just using Miro and seeing the process from just a small workshop to small workshop, and seeing how the different campers address the challenges in real time, and then having the dialogue around those kind of design prompts is really great. And then kind of bringing people out of their comfort zone and speaking in front of a large group is really quite exciting, because I feel like more and more, and I know I was challenged with this early on in my career, just public speaking and that sort of thing, but I'm so impressed about the youth these days and the ability to communicate their design thinking in their work. And so those were some of the things that I really enjoyed during the time.
And Nick was one of our fabulous presenters for the camp. All right, and then I want to show you a couple of, we also got a couple of students to comment on their experience with the camp.
Hi, everyone.
Sorry, I'm a little fumbly with the timing here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Naya Green. I'm a rising 12th grader, and I really loved being a part of Project Pipeline this past time because it really helped me pursue or figure out what I want to do as an architect. I always knew I wanted to be an architect, but with this particular project, working on actual plan, it really helped me figure out what I wanted to research more in college, which is sustainable design. And the project really allowed me to use my creativity and allowed me to explore what I'm interested in, which I really like because I also learned more about architecture in general. Because one of my main concerns going into 12th grade was pursuing architecture, but not really going into college knowing anything about it. And this project pipeline project really helped me learn more, and the speakers really gave me some really important information that I will definitely use in the future. And now I feel like I'm one step closer to becoming an architect, and so I'm very thankful for that.
Okay, and I'll show you one last one. This was also from a student. Ian and Willie put these together, by the way. They're just fabulous. Oh, it's thinking.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ziza Hernandez. I'm a rising senior. I live in Bethesda, so I was very lucky to be able to do this project pipeline virtually in Virginia. I really enjoyed this camp because it gave me an opportunity to explore a different side of architecture that I hadn't in previous architecture type workshops. I was able to do some urban planning things versus just like a single like building structure. And that really opened my eyes to other like aspects of architecture that I realized I like a little bit more than just a typical building. I had a great time thinking about the different, how it would look to walk through a certain area, whether that be residential or commercial, and what would make the most sense for the people in that area. And also what makes it more like sustainable and more fun for kids versus adults, just the different aspects that come with it. And I got these different ideas through the wonderful speakers that we had during the camp. So that was also an amazing thing to hear from various different people and just on their specific experience. It's something that I didn't have prior to this, and that really gave me more like sureness in myself that I wanted to do architecture in the future. And now I'm even looking into doing some internships. So this camp has really given me a broader scope of what architecture could mean for me in the future. And I'm very lucky to have been able to participate.
So I feel like they summed it up really well. On the experience of the camp, and I know that the board and all the volunteers that I've talked to enjoyed it just as much as the campers did. So with that, I'm gonna stop talking and open the floor for questions. You guys can let me know if I didn't touch on anything that you wanted to know about.
Hi, this is Joel here. I just want to say those videos were great, and I want to say thank you, Ian, and whoever helped you put those videos. It was great to see the students get their perspective again, as well as volunteers, provide their experiences in the camp. So thank you for showing those videos, and they were great.
Crystal, I have a question for you. In terms of like, what are the like differentiating things that you notice between participating in Project Pipeline versus what it's typically like in your academic setting in the community college? And is there anything from your experience in Pipeline that you'd like to bring into the classroom at Brightpoint? I know you mentioned Miro was one aspect, so I'm curious if there was any others.
Yes, I definitely want to bring Miro into my classroom. I think that is a fantastic platform, especially as we're exploring high flex classes. We're in this coming off of this everything virtual reality, and more and more of my classes have become hybrid. So I've got some students in person and some students on Zoom, and I'm teaching to both simultaneously. And so I feel like the Miro board is something that's going to be able to help close that gap. and then also I might try to bring the High Flex to Project Pipeline next summer, because we really wanted to have it in person this summer, but we weren't able to. And so next summer, the hope is to have it in person at the college. But I think it's also really nice to have this virtual camp where we, more than half of our campers were outside of our local area, and they would not have been able to participate in person. And so whether that's 2 separate weeks, which may tax our volunteers a little bit, or maybe there's a way to do it high flex where we can do an in-person and a virtual camp at the same time, the same way that I'm teaching. So yes, and as I'm doing this, I'm definitely thinking back and forth between the camp and my classrooms. I think I'm always looking for opportunities. So what I do in the classroom is much more technical and like CAD and Revit driven. There is this conceptual aspect, and we do go through projects from beginning to end. So I may steal some of these slides from these presentations and incorporate them into some of my lessons, because they were just so good. I think the activities and the way the information was presented definitely gave me some ideas to take back to the classroom as well.
Crystal, have you been able to see, are any of the students interested in extending the, like going to school, going to college for architecture? Or?
Absolutely. I just sent my first student to UVA architecture school as a junior, and she just got done with her summer intensive studio, and she is slaying. Like she's awesome. I have 3 other students that should be graduating in December and want to go to Hampton's architecture program as juniors. So yeah, I have a couple of different kinds of kids in my program. I have ones that want to do the least amount of school and get to work as soon as possible. And those guys are ending up as drafters in engineering firms because they can't get enough help right now. And then I have those that are set on being architects and want to go for their bachelor's and to become licensed architects. And so I have been working on pathways for them to not have to start over at the beginning once they're sure that's their path, but to be able to enter accredited architecture programs as juniors. And so right now I've got UVA and Hampton on board with that, and sky's the limit from there. So
I meant the Project Pipeline. I was actually talking about those guys. No, your program is great to know about your program too.
Yes, our students from Project Pipeline, definitely. We have talked to several of those campers after the fact, and helping them get internships and helping them figure out which schools to apply for. I think some of them are more headed toward the engineering track, and then a lot of them were younger, right? So they're we had a lot of 8th graders and then some 9th and 10th graders that weren't quite ready to go to the next phase, but are definitely interested in architecture. And we had the handful of 12th graders that we were, I see Ian's raising his hand. He worked closely with the 11th and 12th graders, and I know that they were definitely on track to go.
Yeah, I was just gonna add that throughout the week we had breakout rooms, and a lot of times I got to spend some time with the 12th grade group, and we talked about colleges and stuff that they were interested in. But I'd say all 3 of them, I think, wanted to pursue architecture at the collegiate level, so that was exciting. And yeah.
Well, another thing that we also trying to do is we're trying to establish, and I know you've probably seen the emails, trying to mentor these students. If anyone is interested in being kind of like a mentor as far as guiding them into what programs to apply, how to apply, and showing them just basically the wonderful profession of architecture. Please let us know, because we can definitely connect you with our. I think we have 4 that are interested in getting mentors, because we had some parents reach out to us asking if we can assist them, guide them through their process into applying for schools and getting into college. So hopefully, I know I got one volunteer saying that she would like to mentor from our group of volunteers. So if you're interested, please let us know, because we definitely would like to connect you and get you plugged in with one of them.
Any other questions?
It's not a question. This is Zakia. I just want to say it was a great presentation, and it looks like y'all had a really successful camp. So congratulations on another good year.
Thank you. Zakia, how did your camp go? I know that you guys were trying to do a mixture of virtual with in-person final presentations.
Yeah. So it went well. I would say the in-person days were more successful than the virtual days, because it starts off hard to get people engaged, and you don't always know if all the students will show up. But I'm looking forward to having it all in person next year. But we had a great turnout for the students that showed up in person, and their parents came and watched the presentations, and we're really excited and thankful that their students were able to participate. So that kind of really made it worth it.
And you all had in-person presentations in 3 locations since you're a statewide chapter, right?
We ended up doing 2 locations because we didn't have, we only had 1 student register in one of the locations in Greensboro, but we had Raleigh presentations in Charlotte, and the Raleigh was hosted by the AIA North Carolina Center for Architecture, and then Charlotte was hosted by Little.
Great, that's awesome. Any other questions lingering out there?
Not a question, but I was just going to say, we're going to continue to interview some of the mentors and students. So Charles, Crystal, let me know your schedules, Joel, because Jamil, who's on the line, he's going to be helping us put together a video for promotional purposes in the future.
Fantastic.
Jamil, you said Jamil's in the line in?
Yes.
Oh, well, I just wanted to say personally, thank you for helping us put these videos together. We really appreciate it. We're definitely gonna credit the heck out of you for this. And make sure that your name gets out there for helping us do this. And we're definitely gonna put these videos to use. So thank you.
All right, well, with that, I wanted to just take a moment before we end this evening and showcase the list of contributors that we had to Project Pipeline. So our mentors and our volunteers, like we mentioned, came from firms and universities all across the Commonwealth. And again, we're just so very grateful for their involvement, because Project Pipeline would not be possible without those individuals making it happen. So thank you to those individuals, as well as to their firms shown here, for allowing them to give back to our students. And in addition to this, like we were just talking about a moment ago, we did have several of our high school campers reach out and say that they wanted to remain connected with a professional mentor to help guide them and answer questions in their pursuit for a career in architecture. So if you are interested in that, please feel free to reach out to us via email at info.vanoma@gmail.com. And then beyond Project Pipeline, we want to include a couple other housekeeping items. The biggest one is that the NOMA National Conference is fast approaching. It's going to be held in person again this year in Nashville, Tennessee on October 26th through 30th. But there will also be the ability to participate virtually as well if you are unable to travel. So if you'd like more information or you'd like to go ahead and register, just visit www.noma.net and click on the NOMA Unplugged image at the top, and you'll be redirected to the conference webpage. And then lastly, this evening, I'd be remiss if I didn't extend a very big thank you to our sponsors of VANOMA. Their generosity makes things like Project Pipeline and events like these possible. So, you know, we wouldn't exist without you. So thank you so much. And if you or your firm are interested in becoming a sponsor, feel free to reach out to us. Here you can see all the various ways that you can get in touch with us. Or if you just want to know more about VANOMA, hop onto our website and our social media to check us out. We're always keeping those up to date and refreshed. And so lastly, again, just thank you all so much for taking the time to attend this evening. And we hope that you have a wonderful rest of your evening as well as a fabulous weekend ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Great presentation, Crystal and Kelly.
Thank you.